Check. 1, 2.
The Debrief. This is the Debrief.
Your guide to Detroit.
Your guide to Detroit's
arts and entertainment scene.
This is the
Debrief.
Welcome to the Debrief for the week of August 20th, 2018. I'm your co-host. My name is Seth Ressler.
I'm Becky Scarcello.
And I'm Jag.
And this is the podcast for people who want to know everything that's going on in the Detroit arts and entertainment scene. Whether it's food, whether it's sports, whether it's comedy, whether it's food, you name it.
All those things.
All those things
and
we've got
more.
covered. In this episode, we have Jennifer Tuttle. She is the director of Much Ado, Para Nada.
Did you roll your R there? I like that.
Yeah.
I'm not really good. Can you roll your R's?
I can roll my R's a little bit.
It's all right. You?
Rodriguez.
Yeah, all right. You guys are better than I am.
You're from California.
I know. But,
So we got the bilingual Shakespeare.
Then we got bilingual Shakespeare. It is part of Shakespeare in Detroit, and it is happening this weekend a couple places. It's happening at Clark Park and over at Campus Marshes. We will sit down and talk to her. Also, our favorite music expert, Delisi of WDET. She's going to be on the show. She's got a couple of things to talk about because obviously this was a
big week.
Huge week in Detroit music. Of
The
course,
Queen.
Yeah, the Queen of Soul passed. Aretha Franklin unfortunately passed away this week. And Wayne Kramer of MC5 has a new book. She'll tell us all about that. Don't forget, on Thursday, we've got our in-depth interview this week. It's a guy that we've been talking about a lot lately.
It's a guy that you've been talking about a lot lately.
Well, look, I'm telling you guys, mark my words. You guys think I'm crazy.
I don't think you're crazy.
I think this
don't.
guy is a breakout star.
No, I agree.
And I've been watching local comedians in the comedy
You
scene.
just more the inside track.
For a
but we
long
trust
time, right? And look, we've had breakout stars in a number of arenas from Detroit.
Heck yeah.
This could be one. I'm talking about comedian Jeff Horst. He was one of 4 Detroit comedians who Kevin Hart singled out for Heart of the City, put in the special last year. And this year, Kevin Hart gave him a full half hour for his special, The Next Level, which is premiering Friday night. So on Thursday, we're going to talk to him and we're going to find out the whole behind-the-scenes story. And trust me, I trust you guys.
I trust you.
I'm going to make you guys come out and see him. And then you will believe.
Okay.
Also want to let you know that we have an Amazon skill now. All you have to do is say, Alexa, enable the Debrief podcast. Look, you guys have memorized it. You guys, you have an Alexa,
I do.
right?
She's temperamental.
Is she?
Yeah.
What, you guys get in fights?
Sometimes. Yeah.
My Google Home is very low maintenance. Maybe you should change
know.
teams.
You guys should swap.
Maybe.
Called speaker swap. And of
Like
course, everything
swingers
else.
for speakers.
There you go. And of course, we've got everything else that's going on in concerts, comedy, plays, food, drink, and more. Stick around.
Can't get enough.
This is the Debrief.
Subscribe on Apple Podcasts or wherever you find your favorite shows.
All right, Becky, let's start with you. What's going on around town?
Okay, well, I hate to say it because summer is absolutely my favorite season, but it's starting to wind down. You got to, if you're going to do these summer activities, you got to pack them in the next 2 weekends.
Fast.
It always feels fast, I tell you. But so I have 4 picks for you on Saturday, August 25th. First is Detroit Repertory Theater is hosting an arts and cultural festival, and Dream of Detroit Street Fair. It's a free event, local artists and vendors, and a sneak peek of their next season shows.
Ooh.
Number 2, Hazel Park Art Fair on Saturday. It's in Green Acres Park, the 7th annual, and you compare that with, the new fun restaurants in Hazel Park as well. Number 3, the first annual Detroit Weird Homes Tour. Now, this Weird Homes tours take place in other cities around the country, but it's the first time here.
What makes a home weird?
Anything unique, unusual, unexpected. So you buy tickets. It's self-paced. You drive yourself around with a little map that they give you. There's 8 homes in Detroit that doing this. So the owners open their doors and you can kind of ask them anything, tour their home. The definition of weird, is all
This is just like my Airbnb. It's same thing. Same concept.
Okay, do you have something that makes it uniquely weird?
Offbeat?
No, but I should come up with something.
You can apply. So if this...
Really?
Yes. So the people that are on the tour applied and, they found and matched up.
People said my home is weird?
Yeah.
I feel like my wife will be watching this on HGTV by the end of the year.
It could... I don't know if
Next
it's going to
week
be
on Weird
recorded.
Homes, we go to Detroit.
It does fascinate me. I mean, when I was a
I know.
kid, I always wanted a house that had all sorts of secret passages.
Oh, yeah.
So I grew up in San Jose, California, and San
lot of
Jose
new
has
homes, huh?
San San Jose has the Winchester Mystery House. Do you know about this house?
No. Mm-mm.
Oh, so you know Winchester rifles.
Yes.
Right? So this is the story. I don't know how much of the story is actually
sure.
true. This is the legend that grew up around it. So, Winchester rifles, this woman, her husband owned, made Winchester rifles, and then he died.
Okay.
And she held a seance and talked to the spirits because she felt like all the ghosts of the victims of these rifles were haunting her.
Oh, wow.
And what her spiritual advisor said to her was, as long as you keep building onto this house, then
There's somewhere for the ghosts to go, maybe.
yeah, and they won't bother you. And so this house is just bizarre.
Crazy.
Like there's no floor plan for it because it wouldn't even make sense. There are stairs that open up into like doors that just fall out the second floor and go nowhere. You don't even know what level you're on. The tour is like 2 hours long to go through it.
That sounds fascinating.
And you have no idea where you are in it. So I like weird homes. I always
I do
wanted
too.
to build a home like that.
Do you guys believe in that like people communicate from the beyond? Do you guys believe in that stuff or no?
No,
Because
absolutely not.
Only a tiny bit, but I think it's somehow in people's subconscious, where they're really just trying to make peace with a relative that died or something. I feel like they believe it, that they're speaking to them, but I think it's something that your mind sort of creates.
I have a story about this. So
Okay.
as I've told you guys previously, my college roommate was killed by a drunk driver when we were 25, a few years after college. A mutual friend of ours came to visit me one weekend. We're hanging out, we're talking. He's like, I had to tell you something, but it's serious. I said, what's that? He said, I went and saw like a medium because I think his grandfather had passed or something like that. And she said, I'm getting a message. I'm getting a message from somebody with a baseball cap, which my friend always wore baseball caps, and he died young. And he wants to give like a mutual friend of yours a message to say that he didn't suffer when it happened and that he's okay.
Whoa.
And like I was just choked up and speechless when he told me about it. I'm like,
Wow.
and I'm not doing the story justice, but there were enough details that this medium knew
That made
it was
sense to you.
obviously my friend Bill, and she told my friend Steven, and he told me, and it was just, he told me, and I was just, okay, I need a drink.
Yeah.
So does that mean you believe in ghosts then?
I have more of a belief in it. I believe in some sort of spirituality. Like, sometimes, a song will pop on the radio or just a little reminder or something funny will happen. And I like to think that it's like my friend let me know that he's kind of, looking down. Like you said, it brings a certain peace to me, but it's also, I think there might be something to it.
Yeah, I've heard enough stories like
All right,
that.
I've decided that Jag's home now qualifies for the Weird Homes tour. So
That's nothing to do with my
just
house.
based on that
It's
story.
nothing to do with
I do
based on-
live in a 90-year-old house,
Just
so
the
maybe.
fact that you're in it makes it weird, all right?
Well, there's that.
And that my
Yeah.
wife will agree with that statement.
Okay, so got to fit in a fourth option for this weekend, and this one is Saturday and Sunday. It's called the Detroit City Art Walk. It's in Corktown, Roosevelt Park. So that's the park right in front of the old train station there. There'll be art and live music, and then there'll be pop-up galleries all along Michigan Avenue too. So those are my picks for the weekend. Belle Isle Aquarium, it's filling more of their tanks. So this is a good story. I don't know if you guys know, the aquarium there is the North America's oldest aquarium.
Really?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah. So not continuously operating because unfortunately it was closed for 7 years. No fish, no operations from 2005 to
No money.
yeah, no money.
Some algae.
To 2012. A little mold here and there. But now that operations are more secure, that's all under the Belle Isle Conservancy arm, the nonprofit. So improvements are continuing. 46 of the 56 tanks are now filled with species from all over the world. The pufferfish from the Congo River just came. Those just arrived.
That's not the one that you have to slice it a certain way to eat or you die. That's an episode of The Simpsons, I'm thinking.
Oh, the Japanese chefs that know how to, and they have to taste it themselves.
This is where you get your knowledge from.
Hey, it's something I watch, okay? You should be happy.
You should at least upgrade to Wikipedia, man.
I know, something. Yeah, don't you know all the good information is on the internet?
Right, yes.
Homer, your drool is warm. You're still alive.
So anyway, if you like fish, and my favorite thing there is the cute little seahorses, tiny little amazing seahorses. But anyway, so the Belle Isle Aquarium is on track for all the tanks to be filled by next summer.
Excellent.
All right, coming up in just a few minutes, we've got some little leaguers from Michigan who are battling it out, and we'll tell you all about their journey.
This is the Debrief,
Want more?
your guide to Detroit's arts and entertainment scene.
Go to the debriefdetroit.com.
All right, Becky and Jag, you know how it works. We've got regulars on the show that we like to check in with from time to time. And when it comes to music, one of our favorite people to talk to is Delisi.
Yes.
She, of course, hosts Essential Music, which happens every Saturday and Sunday, 11 a.m. on 101.9 WDET. That's Detroit Public Radio. And this woman just has an encyclopedic knowledge of everything that's going on in music, especially stuff here in Detroit. And this was a big week.
This would be a good week to have Ann on the show, I'm
Music
thinking.
News.
Good timing.
So, Ann, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, it's my pleasure, as always. It was a big week.
Yeah, well, let's start with the happy news. You had your big barbecue, Delisi's Essential Barbecue. Becky, and you went.
And I went. Yeah, that was a great time, Ann. Thanks for hosting that.
Thank you so much. It was at Axel Brewing in Ferndale. And it was the first time we ever did a barbecue like this. And it was a benefit for WDET. And this is about how it came together. So Chef James Regato from Mabel Gray, incredible restaurant if you've never been there, he texts me that none of this happened on the phone or in an email. He texts me, hey, we should do a barbecue benefit for DET. I said, okay. He goes, I'll call Doug and John. And Doug is Doug Hewitt, the executive chef of Chartreuse, and John is John Vermiglio, the executive chef of Grey Ghost and now owner of Second Best. So within 1 hour, we basically laid out the whole plan via text for the whole barbecue with 200 people there yesterday.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
It went very smoothly. And oh my gosh, the smells in the entire city
amazing.
of Ferndale, I think, were.
That's awesome.
It's incredible. I mean, these three young chefs are amazing. James Regato, Doug Hewitt, and John Vermiglio, they are friends. So it's fun to watch these guys cook together because they're friends.
It was wonderful.
Very sweet. Yeah, it was awesome.
All right, Ann, let's take a look at what's been happening, because like we said, it was a big week here in Detroit music news. For starters, Wayne Kramer of MC5 has a book out.
Yes.
Give us some context for people who may be younger, may not be familiar with the band. Talk a little bit about them and why Wayne is important to the Detroit music scene.
Wayne Kramer is the guitarist for the MC5, and it was 50 years ago this October that the MC5 recorded the legendary album, iconic album, Kick Out the Jams at the Grandy Ballroom. So this is a big year for Wayne Kramer. He's put out this book called The Hard Stuff, his memoir. He put it out just recently, a week and a half ago. And then he's going to be touring and recreating the album that the MC5, recorded called Kick Out the Jams. In this book, he talks very, very openly about his shortcomings. He talks about going to jail. He talks about drugs. He talks about everything. And then he talks about how he basically got his life on track. He's incredibly funny, incredibly smart, and very thoughtful man. And it was an absolute joy to talk to him. But if you talk to artists and rock and roll bands to this day, and you ask them who their influences were, 9 times out of 10, they will mention the MC5. And the fact that they took Detroit and its attitude to the rest of the world, nobody knew what to make of. As he says at one interview I did with him, he says, everybody thought, oh, you guys make Pistons in Detroit.
Right.
Didn't think about Detroit and music and rock music. But this is an iconic band, and that is an iconic album. And now Wayne Kramer is telling his story. And so we've got a couple clips here of this interview. And one of the things that I asked him, for an artist or anybody to get to the point of writing a book and basically telling their story, warts and all, to the rest of the world is a big deal. And so I asked him about writing this book.
I've read a lot of biographies and memoirs, and a lot of them, especially musicians, seem like they would write a book, and they were always the one that had the best ideas, and they never messed it up. They never blew it. And that just never struck me as accurate, And listen, everybody blows it often. So to say that, you had all the good ideas and everything that went wrong was somebody else's fault. So I didn't want to do that, and I didn't want to write a tell-all kind of book. I have no axes to grind with anyone. I'm not trying to pay anyone back for anything. I take full responsibility for my decisions. But I did want to write a book that could be useful, that someone maybe could read first as amusement, first as entertainment. Because if it isn't entertaining, nobody's going to read it anyway. So, would you enjoy the process of reading it? That was one goal. But another goal was that maybe you could see how this young guy started out at one place and then got all these lumps going through everything he went through and ended up in another place that was not so bad. I have a good life today. I get to do the things I like to do with people I like to do it with almost all the time. I adore my family. I have a little boy. I have a beautiful wife who's smart and talented. I have great people that I work with. So, it's possible to make terrible errors, almost fatal at times, that our own human survival sense and our own, integrity or self-respect ultimately can carry us through.
And I have to say, so he's from my hometown, Lincoln Park. And just how he is, just to me, embodies the downriver spirit, to be honest.
It's great.
I just love him.
I don't know what that means.
Authenticity, that kind of humbleness, humility, that kind of work through. Had a lot of crazy stuff happen to you, a lot of it not so great.
So, and let me ask you if this is your experience, because this is something that Jag and I have talked about, when we interview bands or we interview artists, that often when they're at the beginning of their career and they've had some success, like one hit under their belt, they can be a bit of a pain in the studio. And then you get the guys who have been there and done that and been through everything and have nothing left to prove. And those tend to be the guys that are just the coolest people to talk to in an interview. Is that your experience too?
I call it the smaller the name, the bigger the pain.
That is true.
You said it so much more succinctly, Ann, but you nailed it.
Yeah, I mean, you can tell Wayne Kramer was raised right.
Right, yes.
He was raised well.
You know what? One of the things that he said that I have another clip for you, and one of the things that he said to me was, and this was really poignant, he said, there is a Detroit work ethic. And he said, when we were in this band, when we were in the MC5, we would say, we are going to work. We're not going to play. We are going to work. And he really speaks to the Detroit work ethic. And as you mentioned, Becky, you talk about being in Lincoln Park and that attitude. That was really embodied it when he said that, that these guys went to work. This is their job. It wasn't just to play and have fun. They took it so seriously. And, in another part of the interview, I asked him, and I thought it was a cliche question as it was coming out of my mouth, and I couldn't help myself, but I asked it anyway. And I said, when you guys made that album, Kick Out the Jams, were you thinking at that time that this would be something anybody would be talking about 50 years later? And he said, I have to tell you, we actually talked about it, and that it would have the staying power that it does. I mean, I think he's still a little surprised that it does, but the fact that they considered it back then in 1968 is pretty incredible, and that now people around the world are interested in this album and this tour. And so I want you to hear this next clip from him, because talking about the incredible life he had, an incredible career of the MC5 and the longevity of the MC5, I got to the point of asking him, given this entire life and this crazy life he lived, what surprised him? And so you'll hear me ask him that question here.
What struck you after the book was done and you had to really look back at your life? What struck you the most about you? Was there anything about your own self that surprised you when you read back about what you had put to paper to share with the world?
Yeah, what struck me is the unbelievably unwise decisions I've made. They're just unfathomable miscalculations and my complete delusions, like my grandiosity is off the charts, that and my shallowness knows no limits. it's infinite.
You must have looked back and said, I don't even know who that guy is now.
Yeah. I mean, I was like, damn, man, that was some stupid you just decided. I thought your mother raised you better than that, you know?
And I was about, before that last part of the clip, I was about to say, it sounds like in a thesaurus kind of way, he's saying I did a lot of dumb stuff, but he said that a little bit more explicitly toward the end there.
I mean, and that's about how honest he really is about all of it. But he's incredibly eloquent about the whole thing. Very direct, but very eloquent about, everything that he did. And it just made me laugh. Like, I laughed a lot during the interview, actually. But he was incredibly gracious. He spent a great deal of time. I actually have part 2 of the interview that we can talk about in October when they come through town with the MC50 tour. And that talks a lot more about the MC5 directly and Rob Tyner, the lead singer. And it's really, really great. So we'll get to that in a couple months. When we're in a whole new season and a whole new tour schedule for him.
All right. Well,
perfect.
We're looking forward to that. We'd be remiss if we let you go without talking about one other topic. That, of course, is the Queen of Soul, who passed away this week, Aretha Franklin. And I know that you must be working in overtime because you're one of the music authorities here in Detroit. Give us your take on what Aretha meant for the city of Detroit.
Well, I think for the city of Detroit, and I do want to make, and I have been making this correction as I make the rounds talking about Aretha Franklin, she did not record for Motown Records.
Correct.
Right.
So she was not a Motown artist, which a lot of people still believe that she was. Her father had a lot to say about how Aretha's career went. And she started in the church. She was young. She'd been playing since she was a little kid. And then would tour the country with her father. I think that the Motown machine may have been something they were not comfortable with, or her father wasn't comfortable with. So she ended up signing to Columbia. And the crazy thing is she recorded 10 albums for Columbia as a jazz artist. That's what they thought she should have been. It wasn't until Jerry Wexler signed her to Atlantic for the 11th album that her entire world changed. And that album was I Never Loved a Man the Way I Love You. It had all these hits on it. And I was just talking about this on the air the other day. Said, Rolling Stone gave it this like ho-hum review back in 1967. And since then, they've put it in the top 100 albums of the 500 greatest albums of all time.
But you think about 10 albums. I mean, would a label give you 10 albums at this point to connect? I mean, that's a lot.
It would never happen today.
No.
It would never happen today.
Thank goodness it did back then.
Yeah.
But the thing was they didn't know really what to do with her. And Jerry Wexler recognized the kind of artist she was. And the first thing he did was put her at the piano. And she was at home there in that space, being a soul artist, an R&B artist. She was not a jazz artist. It's not what she was supposed to do. And then her career, it absolutely changed overnight. And it was interesting. I interviewed her drummer at the time, who was with her when she was touring, sort of like playing clubs in Detroit, actually, as a jazz artist, like a jazz trio. And he said it was like they went overnight, he said, from riding around in a van to airplanes as soon as I Never Loved a Man came out. Their entire world changed.
Wow.
It was her first million-selling song, and the album was a huge success. And so, one of the things I would say, I could talk about Aretha Franklin all day, but one of the things I will say that I've said repeatedly over the last week was, the thing that got me about Aretha Franklin, her voice, of course, speaks for itself. But when she sang a song, you believed her. Like if it was a heartbreak song, you believed she was heartbroken. Mm-hmm. If she was in love, you believed she was in love. And it struck a nerve with all of us. When she sang gospel music, you believed that she was channeling a higher power. And I think that was one of the things about Aretha that was so incredible, was her ability to make us feel what she felt or believe what she believed when she sang those songs.
That's about the highest compliment you can pay an artist.
Absolutely, yeah.
And Detroit was always her home. I mean, even
though she wasn't born here.
Right.
Mm-hmm. She stayed here, she lived here. And then even in the last, couple decades, especially more than that, even when she stopped flying, she would spend more and more time in Detroit. And so this was really her home. It mattered to Detroiters, and still matters that she decided to live here. It's a big deal. These artists have ample opportunity to leave Detroit. They all do. Right. They could go and live in LA, especially, or in New York or wherever. And so many of these artists just, if they can do it logistically and financially, they end up living in Detroit if they can. And it's wonderful when they do. And Aretha did that.
I understand she was very loyal to people that worked with her in Detroit, too. Mm-hmm. My sister was mentioning a story that she saw Aretha in Ann Arbor, and she came on stage 2 hours late. They found out later it was because the zipper in her dress broke. And she insisted that someone drive to get her costumer from Detroit to replace it. Mm-hmm. She didn't want anybody else messing with it.
You know, she was incredibly private. And there was a lot of things that she did that nobody knew anything about, wonderful things for other people. And, you know, she was able to keep this illness quite under wraps, especially in this day and age. You know, the cancer that took her life. And, you know, different artists function differently. And she had her own way of doing things. There's no doubt about it. And she was the queen. Make no mistake. Mm-hmm. And you'd be wise to remember that had you been talking to her, you know. But you know what? When she would open her mouth to sing, it was always it was amazing,
Magic.
You know. And I would encourage everybody. One final note: go and listen to or watch actually on YouTube her performance of "Natural Woman" at the Kennedy Honors.
Yeah,
we've been seeing that clip everywhere always.
That's brilliant. Yeah, that is brilliant.
I wonder, Ann, from my days as a top 40 DJ, when Michael Jackson died, and there was this whole new generation of kids that hadn't heard the Thriller album and hadn't heard all these songs, and they were like, "Wow, that Smooth Criminal is a great song," you know, and like, you know, and literally for a month I had teenagers calling and requesting Michael Jackson songs on a top 40 station because it was all new to them. I mean, some of Aretha's stuff is just so transcendent and well known, but I wonder if this will actually expose some younger folks to the songs that they may not have known before.
I think it will. It's also worth noting that hip-hop artists have been sampling her for years.
Sure.
A lot of hip-hop artists have sampled Aretha Franklin throughout the years. I would say this, that if you get Aretha Franklin's 30 Greatest Hits on Atlantic and you have never really exposed yourself to her, it'll change your life. I will also say, those of you who are big fans of Aretha Franklin and already know her music, there are two things I would encourage you to own. One is the rare and unreleased collection that you can get for under $9 on iTunes. Mm-hmm. There's outtakes and demos, and you ask yourself, how is this even an outtake? There's nothing wrong with it. I mean, it's absolutely incredible. And songs that were just not released. And then you ask yourself, how did this not get released? The second one is Aretha Franklin live at the Fillmore West, which I contend could be one of the top 3 live recordings ever done.
Wow.
It was done over 3 nights live at the Fillmore West, and it was her producer Jerry Wexler's way of exposing her to a whole new crowd because it was done out west. And it is absolutely mind-blowing. The King Curtis Band is her backing band, and they are unbelievable. And it's recorded so beautifully. And it is an inspirational. There's one song in there with Ray Charles where I believe she pulls him out of the audience for an 8.5-minute version of Spirit in the Dark that will change your life.
Wow. Okay.
It's amazing.
Awesome.
So here, let me help you spend your money. Buy those two.
Becky literally has a page full of notes. I'm looking across the table at her right now.
Yeah, just making sure. Check.
All right. Well, and Delisi, people can catch you when you host Essential Music. That's every Saturday and Sunday at 11 a.m. on 101.9 WDET, Detroit's Public Radio. What do you got coming up on the upcoming shows?
The tribute shows that I did this past weekend. I've had people all weekend long tell me that they have to hear these things and they miss them and they're disappointed. Those 2 shows are going to run Labor Day weekend. So just as I ran them this past weekend and produced them, they will be re-aired on Labor Day weekend. And I really want people to know about that. And secondly, this coming weekend, I have 2 interviews to share. One is with Esperanza Spalding, young, dynamic bassist, jazz bassist, and Terry Lynn Carrington, veteran jazz drummer. And they're going to be performing together the music of Jerry Allen. I interviewed them and they are incredible. Should mention that the Detroit Jazz Festival in its 39th year is the largest free jazz festival in the world. Go down there, support local music. There will be a lot of Detroit artists performing, and then these 2 women are amazing. And then I'm also talking with the guys from Paxahau, Jason Huvar and Jason Clark, in their 20th year with Paxahau. And Paxahau really started by being the organization that took electronic music being made in Detroit to the world. They were the ones who said, we can use the internet to do this. And they have been producing movement for years. Their career is an amazing story of these two young guys who just saw what was there and said, we want the world to know that we're doing electronic music and techno music in Detroit.
Awesome. We'll check it out. Essential Music weekends at 11 a.m. on WDET. And Delisi, thanks so much for checking in with us and letting us know what's going on.
It's my pleasure. Thank you so much for the invite.
Thanks, Ann.
The D3. The D3.
Sports Report.
Jag, what's going on in the sports?
You know I love sports, but this is something I get really excited about, the Little League World Series every year, because this is sports in its purest form. These are 12, 13-year-old kids that aren't millionaires. They're not spoiled by politics and greed. They're just playing because of, I hate to use the cliche, but for the love of the game. So every year you...
Or because their parents made them.
Yes.
You guys are so cynical.
Well, see, no, I'm actually a little bit of an authority on this, since
Okay.
I'm
Yes.
the only parent here that has kids in sports.
And do you make them?
I
You
don't.
force them?
Oh, no.
Okay, well
and
then-
Ben truly does love the game of soccer, but there are some kids out there playing 2-3 sports that maybe isn't always their full choice.
Well, okay, now that you've been a buzzkill...
But no, it's not the case with this, because if you make it that far,
Yeah, so the Grosse Pointe Woods Shores Little League team is the Great Lakes region representative in the Little League World Series in Williamsport, Pennsylvania, and it's a double elimination tournament, so you are alive until you lose 2 games. So they won their first game against Idaho. This is crazy. They had 5 runs at the end of the game, and the bottom of the 6th had walk-off victory to win their first game. Unfortunately, they lost Sunday to Honolulu, Hawaii, but today, Monday, as we record this, they had another come-from-behind victory to stave off elimination. They came from down 4-1 to beat Iowa 5-4. So they'll keep playing until they lose. Their next game, as we record this, is tomorrow evening on Tuesday, and maybe they can make a run of it. But just watching an exciting game where they come from behind 2 out of 3 games, it looks like their backs to the wall. They're going to lose, and these kids just fight and claw back and win. Super exciting and good on them and all their families.
Where do they have these games?
Williamsport, Pennsylvania. There are 2. There are 2 fields they play on. What they do is they have 2 divisions. They have the American region and they have the international region. So they play these regions from all different areas of the world. Each have their representative. They all play and get a champion. The American regions all play and get a champion. And then in the final championship game, it's the international champion against the American champion for all the marbles.
I hope you're taking notes, because I need to know who goes in my Little League fantasy sports team there.
I'm sure
all the kids from Grosse Pointe Woods Shores, because they're really exciting to watch.
I think so.
All right, speaking of kids, high school football returns this Friday. You guys mentioned earlier about summer being over, but this is a sure sign of it.
Yes.
Some of the really big games this first weekend. Granville plays Clarkston at the Big House in Arbor. Livonia Churchill against Canton. Detroit Mumford against Detroit Country Day. Brother Rice versus U of D Jesuit. And North Farmington against Farmington Hills Harrison in their final year before they close that high school. So they've got a lot to play for.
You're a parent. Do you have to go do a lot of high school football games?
I do. Go Berkeley Bears. Yes.
All right.
Yeah, we're starting up, and I had 2 boys in the marching band. Now I have 1 boy in the marching band. So I love it all.
I remember the high school football was like the social event of the week. Is that still the case for high schoolers?
Yes, definitely.
Was it for you?
Well, the athletes in my high school really were not happy with what happened with me, because I love sports, but I don't have an athletic bone in my body. I ran a couple seasons of track, and that was it. But I love being in front of a microphone, as you guys know.
Yeah.
And so I actually was the basketball and football PA announcer in my high school. So at the stadium and in the gym, 3-pointer and, a touchdown, whatever. And so the athletic director thought I did a really good job, and he loved me for some reason. And so he actually, people are going to hate me for this, but he gave me a varsity letter for every season I did the announcing. Ooh. And I ended up getting a varsity jacket. And so all these kids that were practicing every day, like 2-3 hours a day, I walk in and announce the games, and I have the same jacket that they had, and to this day I still have it. So they were a little bit jealous of me.
Why are they? I mean, you're part of the team, though. It's like,
but I'm not putting in the hours and the work and the physical labor there. I just walk. I'm not at the practices. I'm just showing up for the games and announcing them and going home.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like that's at least you're participating. You're being part of it, right?
My friends were fine with it, but some of the athletes are kind of side-eyeing me and saying, like, you didn't
earn that. Yeah.
So here's my confession. I was actually a cheerleader in high school.
You were?
I was.
I feel like that needs a little bit of explanation, Seth.
Go on.
I went to an all-guys high school.
Oh,
Okay. It was a Jesuit high school.
Oh, sure.
And, you get to your senior year and you're looking to pad out your resume a little bit as you're applying for the
Extracurricular
colleges,
activities,
right?
yes.
So that was the same semester that I joined the yearbook.
Interesting.
But don't they see through that? They say, you just put yearbook and
I got in,
you don't put senior year only?
I don't know. I got in, so
how many cheerleaders? Yeah,
how many guys were on the squad?
I don't remember. There were, like a dozen of us or whatever.
Did you were you the top of the pyramid?
No, there were no pom-poms. It wasn't anything like that. We would lead.
Megaphones?
They were chants. They weren't cheers.
You were actually
chants.
leading the cheers.
Yeah. We would lead,
Did you have cute sweaters?
No, we didn't.
I'm thinking of the SNL Molly Shannon Will Ferrell sketch. That's what I see in my mind's eye with Seth right now. I see him as Will Ferrell.
We called them yell leaders because it sounded more manly.
They weren't cheers. They were yells.
They were yells. We led yells.
Oh my God.
Well, it's funny you mention that because the NFL has its first male cheerleader. He's with the New Orleans Saints.
I heard about
See,
this.
I am a trailblazer.
No, you're not.
I am leading the way.
The Saints.
The New Orleans Saints,
Oh.
they have a male cheerleader, and he's taken quite a lot of guff about it from the typical chauvinistic,
Yeah.
old school whatever.
I'm down with it.
So
I'm fine with it.
yeah, I guess you were ahead of your time, Seth. Speaking of cheerleaders, Kelly Stafford, Matthew Stafford's wife, she was the head cheerleader at Georgia, where they went to college together. That's where they met. He was the storybook quarterback and head cheerleader.
Cliche,
but they're wonderful people.
They
do a
are
ton of stuff
awfully cute and
They do a
sweet.
ton of stuff in the community. They're both very good-looking people. They had their third kid. So they, as you know, Matthew and Kelly Stafford had twin girls in March of 2017.
Mm-hmm.
Kelly announced on Thursday they had their third child. So congratulations! to
Wow,
them.
that's close in age. That's
Year and a
rough.
half.
That's tough. Yeah.
Normally, you'd say, "Oh, you got to pay for 3 kids in college at once,"
think
but
they're
I think
fine.
they're okay. He's
Yeah,
the
they're
highest
okay.
paid quarterback in the NFL. Okay. College football starts in 10 days, which is also crazy to think about.
I know.
Not this weekend, but next weekend.
Really? 10 days?
I'm not ready for it.
Have your son gone back to school yet?
No, not till after Labor Day. Because, public schools in Michigan, that's the rule.
After Labor Day.
Oh,
Yeah,
what do you mean that's the rule?
It's
I
the
didn't know
rule.
that.
It's that they passed a law in Michigan to preserve our...
That's a good rule.
Yeah.
Michigan Tourism Summers,
tourism,
right? Yeah.
That's the word I'm looking for. To preserve the tourism in Michigan. So all public schools cannot go back till after Labor Day.
My sister and her husband are out in California, where I grew up, and they're both teachers, and they started this.
Oh,
week.
yeah. My
Oh, you haven't
family in
seen back to
California, my family in Arizona. Actually, my nephew, Ryan McBrayer, is a high school head football coach
Excellent.
in Arizona. Yeah.
Molding young minds.
He's great.
So college football, Michigan has named their starting quarterback. It's Shea Patterson. He's the one that transferred in from Ole Miss down to Mississippi. There was a bunch of sanctions the NCAA had against Mississippi, and he was like, well, I don't want to be here anymore. So he transferred. Normally when you transfer, the NCAA makes you sit out a year before you can play. He got it waived because of the sanctions and situation.
Okay.
And Coach Harbaugh named Shea Patterson for the starter for their first game against Notre Dame.
Sure.
And in the ever ongoing battle of bragging rights between State and Michigan, where State's had Michigan's number in football the last few years, first rankings for the year out, State is ranked 11th, Michigan is ranked 14th, so green and white going to have a little bit of bragging rights.
Just for a couple
Seth,
days.
your girlfriend will be happy. I know she's a State fan, so...
Yeah, she's a State fan. I don't, we walk out down the street and she yells, "Go green." And
somebody else
go white.
Yeah, we're Michigan fans. We have season
when I
tickets.
moved here, they said, if you're a sports fan, you got to pick. It's
gotta
Michigan
pick,
or State.
yeah.
And I've always liked Michigan, even growing up, so I'm a Michigan man.
Okay.
But real quick, Tigers in town to host the White Sox this weekend, then off to Kansas City next week. Lions have the all-important third preseason game. They are at Tampa on Friday night.
Up next, we'll tell you how you can make music with cubes.
This is the Debrief.
About last week.
All right, let's take a moment. Let's talk about what we did last week. Becky,
Yeah.
what'd you do? I mean, we know we went to Andalisa's barbecue. What
yeah,
else?
let me think.
It's on the list.
Well, we went to one of those free concerts at Beacon Park. They've had this series all summer. And it was fun. I mean, I love the light show that Minefield does on the GAR building.
I hear a butt coming.
You're hearing this. I love the food trucks. I love the staff at Beacon Park. I love the atmosphere.
You're so positive.
But I'll have to say, I was not like super on board with the crowd this week.
Who was it?
Well, so Quinn 92 was the headliner. I don't know if you know who that is.
When I was
local rapper.
When I was at
hip-hop
98.7 Amp Radio about a year ago, he was a local artist the station really got behind. He had a song with A-OK that we played on Amp.
Oh,
So-
really? Okay.
Yeah, so
he went to Michigan State, grew up in Detroit. So it's a younger audience. He's 20, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so the audience, I would say, was primarily high school and college age-ish.
Okay.
And as the night went on, more and more, I feel pretty disrespectful.
Okay.
A lot of alcohol. Several incidents of people not handling their alcohol.
So this is high schoolers and college kids that are underage, either with fake IDs or getting somebody to get the drinks for them.
Maybe just about age.
Just about age.
But it was a little disheartening, to be honest.
How much of this, though, is kids misbehaving, or how much of this is just us getting older and going,
Well,
Get off my lawn.
I personally
I
don't
know.
like to be sitting enjoying a show and have somebody throw up on my table.
Did you guys
That's
ever?
not being
that's
old.
a bit much.
That's not being old.
I agree, but it's not like I didn't act stupid when I was in my 20s.
Clearly. I've had
you
many
know?
stupid stories. No, I guess what got me, and I'm pretty laid back, and, if people are stumbling around, whatever, laughing, whatever, good time. But there's that moment when it kind of crosses into almost like entitlement and almost like bad behavior on somebody else's turf. That's a really nice park. For instance, people were just walking all crazy through all the flower beds and, cutting in line in the restroom lines, and just being like pretty disrespectful to the space and the atmosphere and the staff there.
Right.
And it's just a beautiful park and really well run. And I felt that there was some definite entitlement feeling going on.
This is the kind of thing with alcohol being truth serum, where it kind of like reveals your true self. Like you're seeing these people kind of like deep down they feel like, oh, well, I don't have to play by these rules. Okay.
Right. Or maybe even sometimes not alcohol, just kind of like whatever. I want to get from point A to point B and I don't want to take the sidewalk. So I'm just going to trample through the freshly planted flowers, So it kind of bummed me out a little bit. I mean, we still had a good time. And I think overall there wasn't any like real serious incident.
I will say this, because when I worked in radio, we would put on these concerts and we would put them on in downtown parks like this, right? And you have to be careful because if you don't respect the space, and if the space winds up getting trashed,
right?
These things they'll stop doing these things.
Oh, sure.
Or the city, or they will start having input into who gets booked. You know what I mean? And I felt those pressures from cities when I had to book shows like this, where the city would say, "Look, we don't want this, or we
this
want
or that.
this,
It's a different crowd, or
right." So if you want these free shows, you do have to. Yeah, you got to make sure that it's worth it for the city to put it on.
Yeah. So I don't know. Yeah, maybe I do sound old, but it was interesting.
Right.
Yeah, you old person, wanting people to respect things. You sound so old with your respect.
Crotchety.
Yeah. Look, the holidays seem like they're starting sooner and sooner every year.
Stop. No.
Yes, I
You're not
know.
talking Christmas, are you?
I am talking
Fall.
My favorite season.
Fall.
Pumpkin beer season.
Oh, yes. Pumpkin everything season.
It feels like it comes earlier every year.
Are you a fan of the pumpkin Pop-Tart?
No, no.
I don't know about that.
No, I'm not either. But there's literally pumpkin everything.
There is, and it's starting already. And I had my first pumpkin beer last
did?
week. Yes.
What'd you have?
Griffin Claw, the Screaming Pumpkin Ale.
Oh, I've had that. That one's
Out in
good.
Birmingham.
It's a good one,
It
yeah.
is really good. And
I'm not ready for it. I'm still on the shandies and things.
See, I Oktoberfest beers and pumpkin beers, I really enjoy those. My wife will tell you that I have to limit my pumpkin beers because I get a little frisky. That might be TMI, but
What?
You start grabbing pumpkins? Is that what happens?
Oh,
I do start I get a little handsy.
a
Yeah,
little handsy. Well, remind me not to go out with you for pumpkin beers.
just make sure my wife's with me.
Okay. All right.
I was going to say, do you want to go out for pumpkin beers?
I don't know. Seth, I'll meet you at Griffin Claw after the show.
Okay. Bye-bye, guys.
All right, coming up in just a few minutes, we'll talk about Shakespeare in Spanglish.
This is the D.
Concert calendar.
Becky, let's go through the concerts.
All right, so Wednesday, August 22nd, there's a free concert at the Dequinder Cut Campbell Terrace. One Freak is the band. It's part of the D-Cypher music series that's been going on every Wednesday night this summer.
There's not like a
Great
spelling
spot.
test in this, is there?
No spelling test,
Okay.
no.
I
No.
was looking at that. That's a pretty clever way to spell
One Freak, yes.
Yes,
One of my
O-N-E.
favorite local bands, O-N-E, capital F-R-E-Q.
That's clever.
Yeah.
I like that.
They're great. August 23rd, which is Thursday, I'm going to give you my place of the week. Now, a lot of times I have the pick of the week for concert, but this is the place of the week to go for music. The Cube at the Max and Marjorie Fisher Music Center, right there adjacent to Orchestra Hall. So the Cube is just this cool little space that has fun, different things. So on Thursday, there's a conversation there led by Chris Campbell. He's a DJ, nationally recognized music journalist. He'll be chatting with Les Nubiennes, who I've seen in concert. Amazing. They're French, two French sisters, and friend of the pod, Mahogany Jones.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's a Kresge Arts Fellow, international music ambassador, hip hop activist, MC.
You know what I just saw
extraordinaire.
is she's on the bill of people to talk at TEDx Detroit.
Yeah, and I'm going to go to that.
Yeah,
day.
that looks really good.
Yeah. So you'll get to see these great interviews with them and then a short acoustic set.
By the way, we should
Yes.
plug when Mahogany Jones was on here when we had, which was one of your first episodes.
It was,
I think.
yeah, March.
She freestyled and she was amazing.
Oh, she-
I remember that
Yeah.
episode.
Go back and listen to that.
Off the dome. So also at the Cube on Friday, sound sculpture with John Dixon. So you can make your own music. They're going to have these glowing light cubes in the cube.
Okay.
And you can move them around. And depending on what order they're in, what orientation, how they're stacked, that kind of thing, it changes the music composition.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so now let people in the audience move these
That's
things
like
around.
Mr. Wizard when I was a kid. He had the different amounts of water in each glass. And
Oh, okay. All right.
This is like a 3D like Abletron. Is that what they call those things that DJs make the music? Do you know what I'm talking about? The
I
square
do.
boards.
Yes,
that,
my son has one of those, a machine.
it feels like a 3D one of
like
those.
that, yeah. And so keyboardist and DJ John Dixon, so he'll kind of be helping people figure this out. And then along with musician Marquis Johnson, they'll end the night with a techno and jazz fusion set to round it out.
That sounds really cool.
I
just
know,
want to go and like
different.
move cubes and like play
See
like
the
Rubik's
light and the
Cube.
sound. I know.
That looks awesome.
Yeah. So on Saturday, August 25th, Paxahau is producing a show called Detroit Love at the TV Lounge there on Grand River. They have a great patio, super cool in the summer. There are going to be DJs on two stages. Carl Craig, Derek May, Kyle Hall, Luke Hess. So, I mean, we're talking the godfathers of techno here. August 26th on Sunday, Gladys Knight and the OJs at the Fox. So I'm going to bet there's going to be some Aretha Franklin music.
I mean, there's been
going
a
on.
lot, like every band that's come through.
Yeah, they're gonna.
How can
be
you
in
not
on
at
that,
this point?
For sure.
I feel like I saw Gary Graff, the music writer that we've had on the show a couple
Yeah.
times. I feel like I saw in my Facebook feed that he called out some band for not doing a tribute to.
Really?
I think so, but
That's tough.
I don't quote me on that.
Wow.
But it was like somebody who should have, and he's like,
Yeah, a lot have been dedicating. So
maybe I'm wrong. I'm gonna have to double check.
but I think
that.
Gladys Knight especially.
Yeah.
So Freedom Hill this week has Deep Purple with Judas Priest, and they have their 4th annual Summer White Party. You can head over to DT this week for Miranda Lambert with Little Big Town, and Niall Horn with Maren Morris.
So Niall Horn, if you don't know, was in the boy band One Direction, and they, in some ways, made my radio career in Detroit. If you see, I have several thousand Twitter followers. It's because of One Direction.
Oh, really?
So
Okay.
It started off when I was doing.
Wait, were you in the band at one point? Or?
The next best thing, because I had
next best thing.
I had access to One Direction tickets and front row seats and backstage passes.
so everybody loved you
So when I
in the
did
teenage
nights,
set.
when I did nights on Channel 955, which is 2011, 2012, I actually got the hashtag Jag Show trending worldwide on Twitter because I said, if you get me trending in the U.S., I'll give away these tickets. And this girl calls out, Jag, you're not trending in the U.S., you're trending worldwide.
No
It was
way.
Ash Wednesday and then Jag Show. Those are the two.
Ash Wednesday and the Jewish guy.
Yeah,
So you were right behind Jesus.
yeah, really.
Wow.
So these girls were just crazy for One Direction, just like boy bands historically. But I remember they did a show at the Fox Theater, and Nick Craig was doing afternoons when I was doing nights. The two of us went down there. He did his afternoon show live. I helped him out. He's kind of walking around talking to the girls and stuff. The tour bus pulled in, and it was like, you ever see the swarms of like cicada bugs? Like,
Oh, yes.
Like I was so lucky none of these girls got run over by the tour bus because they were just
Swarming
swarming
it,
to this
yeah.
thing, and they wanted to take pictures of me because I had had the connection to the tickets. Like as soon as I was just walking around, it was like, Jack, can I get a picture with you? Because they had somehow associated me with One
with the
Direction.
band.
It was really, that's how I made a name for myself in Detroit, was being the guy that answered questions on Twitter about how to win One Direction tickets. So
Okay, well,
I got a soft spot for those guys.
Maybe you can go and go backstage and thank him.
And when Niall was here, I think last year at our AMP concert, I thanked him, and he was super nice, very funny guy. So
cool.
good for him. He's a really good guy.
Hear that.
Yeah.
So I've got picks for you guys on sale now for Seth.
Yes.
So you think you can dance live 2018?
That's your thing, man.
So
yeah.
I wanted to make fun of him for the One Direction thing, but I knew that this was coming because
Because you saw my little note.
this is my guilty pleasure here.
I
so you
love
think
it.
I love this show. This and America's Got Talent.
Does it remind you of your cheerleading days?
His yell leading days,
Oh, the
Becky.
yell-
It's
oh.
yell leading.
Does it remind you of your yell choreography?
But honestly, it's like you with sports. Like you can't do it, and so you really admire people who do.
Okay,
I
okay.
cannot move my body that way.
Mm-hmm.
Believe me, every once in a while, like every 15 years, I go, maybe I'll take a class, and that
No.
30 minutes in turns out to be a horrible idea.
See, I took hip hop dance lessons. From,
Were you any good at it?
You'll have to ask Jarrell Gordy, my teacher.
Oh,
and we're
well,
still friends.
yeah.
But shout out to him. But no, I guess super fun. But I know exactly what you mean. It'd be like it looks effortless, and he would get up there and say, "Here's what we're learning," and then it would take us the whole hour to learn like 5 steps.
Yeah, I love the crunk. I love Bollywood. I just think that's such a cool
yeah.
style. And I love the choreographers.
Travis Wall.
Travis Wall is amazing. Sonia Taya is the other.
Oh, she's so cool.
I look to see who's choreographing the dance, and I'm like, that. If that's it, I'm in.
And this is cool because I've seen one of these live performances before, and it was off the chain. I mean, you get to see some of your favorite dances from the season. So it's going to be October 25th at the Fox Theater. Pre-sale tickets now.
I've never been to one. I would actually definitely want to go to one of those.
You should go. So, not to leave you out, Jag, I have something on sale for you.
Yeah.
Carrie Underwood.
The most beautiful woman on the planet. My absolute
She's
celebrity
coming.
crush. Like to the point where my wife will pause the TV and say, "Your girl's on," and cut them in the other room.
Get you in there.
Really?
So where and when is Carrie?
Okay, so she's going to be at LCA. This is way in advance. Pre-sale now, October 31st, 2019.
Halloween next year.
Yes.
Real quick, I know we got to move on, but real quick, the story of me meeting Carrie backstage at the Superdome in New Orleans during Mardi Gras. She was the Grand Marshal. When I was working in New Orleans, she was the Grand Marshal of the...
Bacchus?
No, the really big one, Endymion.
Endymion,
the Endymion crew parade for Mardi Gras. And
I didn't go that year then. I
My,
don't remember that.
my boss ran the country station. He knew I had the biggest ever crush on Carrie.
Yes.
He was like, "You want to come back? You want to come to this?" And I was drunk. It was a parade. He's like,
Yeah.
"Can you sober up in the 20 minutes it'll take to walk over to the Superdome?" "You got it, boss. I'm good. Let's go." And I met her. She was so nice. And I told her, I said, "I really thought your song Last Name was a great song, and I thought it was going to cross over to CHR like Before He Cheats did."
Yeah.
And she looked at me and said, "I'm sorry,
wait.
but I'm getting
What is CHR? I've never heard that.
That's what she asked me.
Yeah. Oh, really?
That's the whole point of the story. So CHR is an industry term for top 40. It's like the top 40. It's contemporary hits radio. So she said, "I'm sorry, CHR." I said, "Oh, top 40." I said, "I thought that song was going to go to top 40 like Before He Cheats Did, which is the #1 song in top 40. She goes, "Oh no." I said, "Top 40. Oh, yeah, no, it didn't for whatever reason, but thank you for saying that." And I'm saying to myself, wow, I just taught Carrie Underwood an industry term.
Yeah.
And she is one of the 2 celebrities that I've met that is even more stunning in person than even on TV.
Really?
Carrie Underwood, Jennifer Lopez. When both of them walk into a room, the room just stops.
Wow.
They are stunning. Okay, let's move on and talk about something else.
Okay, he's getting all worked up. That's all I got. Let's end on that.
All right, local comedian Jeff Horst is going to be on Comedy Central, and there's a viewing party if you want to watch his appearance with him.
Sounds
you can
fun.
do that. We'll have all the details.
I would like to say to the people of Detroit, I can feel the difference.
Come down to Detroit.
The Detroit Institute of Arts.
The Detroit Zoo.
Michigan Science Center.
Detroit Cocktail Classic.
The Arab American National Museum.
The Little Caesars Arena.
The Henry Ford.
Eastern Market.
The Key Line.
The Detroit Derby Girls.
Motor City Brew Tours.
I think everybody can feel it. It's a comeback story that everybody's been rooting for. Detroit is moving.
And you're listening to The Debrief.
And you are listening to The Debrief.
The Debrief.
Debrief.
The Debrief.
All right, Becky, let's talk about Shakespeare.
Okay.
I would love to.
So there's actually something called Shakespeare in Detroit, which is an organization is now in its 5th season. It is working very hard to put on these Shakespeare shows in different areas. They actually don't have a home at the moment.
They're getting one.
They're
though,
getting
correct?
one.
Yes.
Yes. 2020, they should have one. This was all put together by a woman named Sam White. So in the meantime, they're performing these shows in various different places. And this weekend, there is a show. It is Much Ado para Nada, which, if you know Spanish, is Much Ado about nothing.
Okay,
yes.
so a
I love that.
little combination there.
Yeah, so
Bilingual?
it is bilingual. It's actually about 80% in English and it's about 20% in Spanish because they are doing this Thursday, August 23rd. They're doing it at Clark Park in Mexican
Town, sure.
And then Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, they're doing it over at Campus Martius. So I sat down with the director. This is Jennifer Tuttle, and had a conversation with her about this play that's opening up. And the first thing I asked her is, how is Shakespeare in Detroit different from theater companies? Because, Shakespeare's done all over the world,
sure.
obviously all over America. How does doing it here in Detroit compare to doing Shakespeare in other cities?
One thing that I think a lot of cities are talking about is, being more inclusive, making Shakespeare more accessible. In one way or another, people are moving in that direction, but it doesn't always translate. Either you don't see much inclusion on stage, or there's almost none in the administrative staffing of shows. And I think that becomes a barrier in giving Shakespeare to a larger community because they view it as really like a white Western European male art form that they won't be able to understand or wasn't written for them. And so I think what's really special about Shakespeare in Detroit is that it's the most inclusive, equitable, diverse theater company that I think I've ever directed for.
And I can see that. I can see
Definitely.
how Shakespeare would look very white, Western world male,
Elitist. Or,
Yeah, well, look, Crazy Rich Asians just came out, this movie, this rom-com.
Number one box office over the weekend.
I have so many people, who are Asian who are just excited about it because they are looking up at the screen and they're seeing people who look like them and the situations and the families that they grew up in. So I can understand that idea behind, how do we make Shakespeare accessible to more people? And so that's why this particular production, Much Ado para Nada, they're doing, like I said, 80% English, 20% Spanish, which is Spanglish.
I love the creativity there because I'm not a Shakespeare fan because for me it was the books that I had to read in high school, the field trip that I had to go on, because it was forced on me. I was never excited about it. It was okay. Let me read it. I'll check the box. And now, hearing that it's being made inclusive and more fun for different groups, I think that's great.
See, that's funny because I liked Shakespeare. It was Spanish that was forced upon me.
Oh, funny. In California.
Yeah,
I liked both.
Nerd.
I know.
Nerd
totally,
over here.
Totally.
All right. So I asked about the two languages, using English and Spanish. Here's what she said.
The two language idea was Sam's. She really wanted to serve the Southwest Mexican town community because, like I said, Shakespeare in Detroit's really tried to serve different parts of the community as well as the community as a whole. We originally thought about doing about half and half in each language, but in the way that the casting kind of fell out and the way Detroit really is as a whole, we felt like a 20-80 language split really would serve the audience best. And it's been really enjoyable to see how the Spanish and English play off of each other and actually accentuate each other. We still have a fair amount of Shakespeare's original text, so you'll hear that heightened Shakespearean iambic pentameter, but then there's a little bit of colloquial English, and there's some heightened poetic Spanish and also some colloquial Spanish, and the way they kind of interplay, it's really been fun to play with that and collaborate with the cast on that.
I wonder if you have to, when you rewrite it, do you have to put it in certain meter? How does that work?
Iambic pentameter.
Right.
Well, I'm sure there's a precedent for that where Shakespeare's performed in Spanish-speaking countries. But that's interesting. I have to piece it all together.
Yeah, definitely. that would be a challenge.
Now, are you guys familiar with Much Ado About Nothing, this play?
Yeah, a little bit.
I'm not.
Yeah.
There was a film version that Kenneth Branagh did, I think, a number of years ago.
Definitely.
Joss Whedon did a version.
It's a movie. I haven't seen it.
Yeah, I'm sure you haven't. Yeah.
All right. But if you're not familiar with it, here's what the play is about.
It's a middle comedy of Shakespeare's. His earlier comedies are really kind of fun and lighthearted. The middle comedies have more drama in them. So it's basically a love story comedy about two couples. There's Beatrice, and Benedict, who we're calling Beatriz and Benedicto in this production. And they're the lovers who are constantly fighting and battling each other and are, just these two strong wills going up against each other. And so there's a lot of comedy in that. And then Hero and Claudio, who are kind of the more traditional young lovers, but have a pretty rocky path of their own.
It's a rom-com.
Exactly.
It's what it is.
You're saying Shakespeare was ahead of his time.
Yes. Shakespeare could have written crazy
Mad About You.
agents. Yeah.
Oh,
absolutely.
definitely. Yeah.
So, all right. So the last question I asked was, what's the impact of these shows on the community? And here's what Jennifer told me.
A whole generation of kids get to come and see these shows, and Shakespeare in Detroit gets between 2,000 and 2,500 people to each show that they put up, and a lot of them are kids, and they enjoy it, because they see people who look like them and people who sound like them speaking this amazing language and telling these stories with really exciting storylines, and so they see it as something that can be for them as well, and should be for them, and is theirs.
So the show is Much Ado para Nada. It is happening Thursday, August 23rd at Clark Park in Mexican Town, or you can catch it Friday, Saturday, and Sunday at Campus Martius. You can get all the details at shakespeareindetroit.com. Hard to believe, summer is almost over, which means the cider mills are about to open up.
Sure sign of fall.
Oh, we're going to tell you about it in just a minute.
Welcome to the Breathe.
Funny stuff.
Jag, what's going on with stand-up comedy?
Before I get to the stand-up part, got to give a shout-out to the Wyandotte Police Department. You've probably seen these going viral all over the country, these police departments doing lip-sync videos to popular songs. Well, the Wyandotte Police Department did it to Ice Ice Baby, and they killed it. This thing went viral this week. Channel 4 shared it on their Facebook page. If you haven't seen the Wyandotte Police lip-syncing to Vanilla Ice, the video is up now on the Debrief Facebook page.
Yeah, it's super cool because I grew up in that area, so I'm familiar with.
Did you go to high school with any of these guys? Do you know? Really?
Yeah,
you know some
Did
of
you
them?
recognize any of them?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's fun.
I feel like there's more of a
Go
story
check it
there,
out.
right?
No, it's just funny when you went to school with people that have a certain personality or certain behaviors, and then they end up being a cop. Yeah.
Like you saw it coming, or you're surprised by it?
Right.
Kind of surprised.
All right, fair enough.
Okay.
Motor City Comedy Festival has their headliner for Saturday night. Ms. Pat of Last Comic Standing. She's going to be the Saturday headliner at El Club on Friday, September 21st. So that festival coming closer and closer together.
This is going to be a great festival. This is now in its second year. This is something that Lauren Uhalik and Kyle Forsyth, who are two local comedians, have worked very, very hard to put together. And it showcases a lot of the up-and-coming talent. We've talked about the stand-up comedy scene and everything that's going on.
Right.
Please go and support this when it comes at the end of September.
Friday, August 24th, big name in comedy, Ron White. He was part of that whole Jeff Foxworthy blue-collar comedy tour.
I love him.
He's hilarious.
He's my favorite of the blue-collar comedy tour.
I saw him a few years ago. I want to say it was at the Fox that I saw him a few years ago, and he does this great routine about where his nickname is Tater Salad.
Yes.
He was a teenager, got busted by the cops, and he said his name was Tater Salad, so his rap sheet actually says Ron White, a.k.a. Tater Salad.
Yes.
He's at the Coliseum over at Caesars. But if you want to stay on this side of the border on Friday night, our boy Jeff Horst, Seth's Man Crush, who's going to be our guest on Thursday. His show, Kevin Hart Presents The Next Level. He's featured on that show. There's going to be a viewing party Friday night at Zeke's Barbecue in Ferndale. You can get there starting at 9. The show airs on Comedy Central at 11 on Friday night. Quickly this weekend, Nate Craig is at Mark Ridley's Comedy Castle. Ann Arbor Comedy Showcase is for Carla Flanagan from Last Comic Standing and The Carmichael Show. Punchline Comedy Lounge in Southfield has the hilarious Aries Spears, if you remember him from Mad TV.
I just got a text message from my girlfriend who says, quote, I need to see Aries Spears this weekend. You want to go Saturday or Sunday night? He's my longtime fantasy boyfriend.
So it could be a good night to bring her to see him, and it's a good night for you.
I feel like it might be a bad night for me. I don't know. I'm not sure how to read that message.
I think
Seth,
she's going to bring it home.
He's the appetizer. You're the main course.
Yes.
And then the Holly Hotel has Wes Ward. Quick shout out to the folks at Go Comedy in Ferndale. They have a show on Wednesday night called Female Hysteria. It is encouraging women in comedy, so props to them.
The D. Breathe.
Food and drink.
Becky, let's talk about what's happening with, libations and
the
eats.
yum-yums.
Yum-yums.
How do you guys feel about donuts? You donut fans?
I enjoy donuts very much.
I enjoy donuts.
I look like one.
Holy Moly Donut Shop. Okay. So this is the home of customizable donuts, meaning you got your fried dough, you got your circle of fried dough there, and you can go up to them and say, I want this, I want that, I want this kind of jam, I want this kind of candy, this kind of glaze, and build it yourself. So they're opening a second location in the city, going to be on 7 Mile Road. Have you ever seen the first location?
No.
So I have driven by this, and it just immediately caught my eye when they opened. It's on 8 Mile. I was heading towards I-75. So you got the Holy Moly Donut Shop directly next to a dispensary.
What kind of dispensary?
A marijuana dispensary.
That is genius marketing right there.
It's like it almost seems like it's the same business.
Right.
You know,
you would think.
Yeah. And it makes a lot of sense, right?
Oh, absolutely.
So, yeah. So kudos to them. They must be doing well.
I've never customized a donut. It sounds like
Sounds like a lot of work. I just want to pick it out of the case and eat it.
Well, what I worry about is are 3D printers going to put them out of business? Like, are you just going to be able to go in and
just pick your own,
print your own donut?
Could be. I don't even understand that 3D printer business.
Quick donut story. So when I was living in New Orleans and Ellen came down to visit, we were at one of those really nice donut shops.
District Donuts?
That's the one, yeah.
Oh, on Magazine Street?
That's right. And so we were looking at one. We said, let's pick out one of those giant donuts and we'll split one.
Huge, yeah.
And, that one looks good. That's got some chocolate on it. Okay, so let's get that. She bites into it and had this horrible look on her face.
Oh, no.
Remember, we're in New Orleans.
Yeah.
It wasn't a chocolate glaze. It was a bourbon glaze.
Oh.
She was quite surprised.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that.
No, that's a nasty surprise when you're expecting chocolate.
Right. So speaking of junky food, Ford Field has announced their new concessions for the Lions games. But what's really nice is there's some good low prices. So a lot of times you feel like it's such a ripoff, the concessions at sports events.
Whether it's a sports event or a concert, absolutely.
Concert, you're paying $12 for a beer, whatnot. So they're going to have $5 beer.
Okay.
They're going to have hot dog pop chips combo for $10, or
nice.
You can upgrade the combo with beer for $12.
Okay.
And there's a power hour, so kind of like their version of happy hour, sponsored by DTE.
Power. Okay.
Get it? For the first 60 minutes after the doors open, $2 pop, $2 hot dog, $2 beer, $3 special or $5 specialty drink.
I got to say something. I'm the word pop. I just can't get used to that.
Soda.
Are you soda or are you?
I'm soda.
Okay, you're soda from California. I'm soda from Massachusetts originally.
Right. Yes.
Pop all the way.
Have you gotten used to saying? Do you say pop now?
No, I've adopted many Michigan isms. Like like I'll call a glass sliding door a door wall. I'll call a liquor store a party store.
I didn't know that one either. That's
you don't
a thing
know about
too?
the door wall?
No.
Yeah.
Really?
A glass sliding door in Michigan is known as a door wall.
What do you call it?
A glass sliding door.
Oh, what's cooler there? I mean,
and then what's the liquor store? What do you call that?
It's a party store.
Party store.
Yeah,
party store. Or liquor stores. Okay.
I've adopted all of them. I can't do.
You can't do pop.
That's the one I can't do.
Well, what do you say? So you say like pizza and soda? It's pizza and pop.
No, it's pizza and soda. So this is where the native has to teach us.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
Well,
I digress. Go on.
Yeah. So anyway, good prices for the drinks. There's also some new food items. Smoked buffalo chicken tacho.
This is the one I'm excited about.
Instead of nacho with tortilla chips, it's tacho with tater tots as the base.
Okay. And what's on it?
Pulled chicken with the buffalo seasoning, bacon, blue cheese sauce, green onions.
My mouth is literally watering.
I like the tots. I'm a tater tot fan.
I am going to a Lions game this year. I got tickets. As you know, I grew up in New England, and the Patriots are here. So I'm going to go see the Patriots Lions game in a few weeks.
Get some buffalo tots.
$200 a ticket. So I'm happy to save on the concessions, but I'm stupid excited about this buffalo chicken tacho. That's going to make my night.
So for dessert, though, listen to this. This is like a sugar bonanza. Michigan cherry chocolate nachos. So it's a dessert nacho with cinnamon sugar chips, smoked chocolate Nutella sauce.
Stop it.
Jeez.
Marshmallow fluff, graham cracker crumbles, Snickers, and chocolate-covered cherries and silver sprinkles.
I'm getting a sugar rush just like
I know,
hearing
it's
about
like
it.
making
So let me ask you this.
really
So it's
making me shake.
$2 pop and $2 hot dog. Are the insulin pumps on special too?
I think you can get one on the side for an extra 50 cents. Yeah. So, first sign of fall in Michigan when it comes to food. What's the first sign of fall in
Pumpkin beer.
Cider donuts.
Yes.
Okay.
The cider mill's opening. So, that's for you What do you call yourselves? Transplants?
I will say there are a lot of things I love about Michigan, and cider mills and cider donuts are right near the top of that list.
And apple picking. So that's coming down. A bunch are already open.
Already?
So it's cider mill season. They're opening.
It's August.
Donuts. This time of year, you can still do like the you pick raspberries. The apples aren't usually quite ready, but they will be soon.
So I don't know. Are some cider mills better than others? Like, what are the qualities you look for when selecting a cider mill?
I would say, okay, so it depends if you want to make it your day or if you just have a hankering for some cider and donuts, or if you want to go pick apples for the afternoon, or if you've got kids or you've got older people. It depends.
If you want a quickie, like a nooner at a cider mill,
at a cider mill, I would go for Franklin Cider Mill.
Okay,
that's a good one. That's a quality one.
Yep. If I'm looking for an all day event and the kids want to go in the bounce house and I want to go pick apples, I'd go to Irwin's in South Lyon.
So I have not been there. Okay,
so that's your tantric cider mill.
Yes.
Okay.
That's the whole 9 yards.
Got it.
Yeah.
I'm following.
I don't want to know what you do with those donuts.
Oh, good Lord. It also depends on the type of donuts you like, right? So if you like the frosted and the glazed, or if you like the cake donuts, or if you like the crunchy cinnamon sugar donuts, each place, like Parmenter's in Northville, hands down, best cinnamon sugar donuts. So
yeah, they got to be hot, the cider donuts.
Hot.
And then I will say, last year I took a trip up to Blake's. They make all the ciders, and that's a hike. Romeo Plant. Yep, that is a hike, but well worth it because you can pick the apples. Yeah. There's a little tap room and a restaurant. You can buy all the different ciders too, like
honey and all that.
Yeah, Blake's is a quality spot too.
There's so many. Okay, so mlive.com has a nice list. A to, I would say Z, but I don't think there's any Z ones. I think the lowest of the alphabet is Yates.
Okay.
In Rochester with a Y. So check that out. But like I said, many are already open and many more opening by Labor Day weekend. So speaking of opening, there's another new restaurant in Clawson. They're doing their soft opening right now. It's called Zioli's Modern Italian Kitchen.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I used to live a block from here.
Yeah,
and this was
it
was like a thrift store. It was like you go in and you
exactly
close
a resale.
Yes.
Yep. So I peeped a bunch of pictures on Facebook. It looks really bright, casual, fun, and already has a bunch of good reviews about the food and the service.
I was reading that the home prices in Clawson are going up like some of the fastest in the country.
I could see that.
Because the downtown is, I don't want to say exploding. I mean, it's not Royal Oak or Ferndale yet, but you can absolutely see how in 10 years it's going to be the next one.
I literally drove through Clawson today and I couldn't find the sushi place. I was just passing through.
It's a tiny hole in the wall.
It's small.
Right.
Where is it?
It's on 14 Mile.
Right.
Okay.
There's only like 2 blocks of Clawson.
Right. No, I drove down 14 Mile and I'm looking,
It's east of Maine.
Yeah,
okay,
it's 14 Mile in Maine, basically, and it's like half a block from the intersection right there. And when you first walk in, it doesn't look like a sushi restaurant. It looks like a little Asian mart.
It's a grocery.
And then all the way in the back, I mean, there's maybe like 10 seats. Like it's tiny. But they're expanding over into this the shop next door.
And I went to in Clawson I think it's called Woodpile Barbecue.
Mm-hmm. Yep, good barbecue.
Was very good.
Really good barbecue.
Very good. And they serve Treat Dreams ice cream too. Yeah, I love Clawson. I love Leon and Lulu, the big big store.
Yeah, they've done nice with the shop that's in that movie theater there now.
Yeah, I know the owner of there, and she was actually at Aunt Delisi's barbecue.
Oh,
yeah.
there you go.
Gets
come full circle.
Yeah.
This is the D.
Detroit.
This is the D.
Brief.
All right, guys, that's a show.
Indeed it is.
I liked it.
Thanks to our guest, Jennifer Tuttle. She is the director of Much Ado Para Nada. Did I roll my R's good enough there?
Para Nada.
Para Nada.
Passable.
Yeah. Anyway, go check out the play. It's part of Shakespeare in Detroit.
They're a great organization.
Happening this weekend.
Super cool.
Always thank you to Delisi of WDET. She just knows everything.
She's our guru.
Yeah,
ask her really anything about music, especially Detroiters. She's on it.
Don't forget, Thursday is our in-depth conversation with comedian Jeff Horst. This is the guy who is up and coming. He's got a new half-hour comedy special. It's going to be on Comedy Central on Friday night. It is Kevin Hart's Presents The Next Level. And don't forget that we have an Amazon skill now. So if you own an Alexa, like an Echo or a Dot, all you have to do is say, Alexa, enable the Debrief podcast. Subscribe and leave a review to this wherever you find podcasts. Download our mobile app and visit our website, thedebriefdetroit.com. While you're there, sign up for the email list because we will email you links to everything that we talk about in this show. Becky, anything you want to plug this week?
Check out enjoythed.com because I know you're going to want to get on the Murals in the Market tours coming up.
Yeah.
I'll be giving my first ones, I think, September 28th. So all the dates are up there.
That's gonna go quickly, I would think. I mean, that
they're really
tour.
popular. Yes.
What about you, Jag?
If you want to get involved with podcasting in any way, shape, or form, I can be your gateway drug into podcasting. Just check out my website, jagindetroit.com.
All right, that's it for us. Detroit's moving.
Keep up.
The D Brief.
Your guide to Detroit's arts and entertainment scene.